Imagine a single flash of light, so bright it outshines the sun, so powerful it reduces a city of over 300,000 souls into ashes within seconds. On August 6, 1945, the world witnessed this terrifying reality when the first atomic bomb in history was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. It was a moment that not only ended a war, but also changed the destiny of humanity forever. But how did we reach that moment? What chain of events led to the unleashing of a weapon so destructive it forced mankind to confront its own survival? The story begins years earlier, in the midst of the Second World War. By 1942, as the world was burning, scientists in the United States were secretly working on a project that would alter history, the Manhattan Project. Under the leadership of figures like Robert Oppenheimer, General Leslie Groves, and thousands of scientists, engineers, and workers, a race began to harness the most basic force of the universe, nuclear energy, and turn it into the deadliest weapon ever created. While Europe was still under the shadow of Nazi Germany, the Allies feared Hitler's scientists might be building their own bomb. That fear pushed the Americans to act swiftly. Laboratories across the United States buzzed with urgency. Entire towns were built in secrecy: Los Alamos, Oak Ridge, Hanford, all hidden from the world, filled with people who knew they were part of something monumental, yet most had no idea what the final product would be. By July 1945, the project's work reached its climax. In the deserts of New Mexico, scientists prepared for a test they called Trinity. At dawn on July 16, a fireball lit the desert skies. The blast was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A mushroom cloud rose into the heavens as the desert sands turned to glass. Oppenheimer later recalled words from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The weapon worked. And now came the question, what should be done with it? President Harry Truman, who had only taken office a few months earlier after Franklin Roosevelt's death, faced one of the most difficult decisions in history. The war in Europe had ended, but Japan remained defiant. Fierce battles in places like Iwo Jima and Okinawa had shown how costly an invasion of Japan would be. Thousands of American soldiers were dying, and estimates suggested that a full invasion could cost millions of lives, both American and Japanese. Truman's advisors presented the bomb as a way to end the war swiftly. A single strike, they argued, could shock Japan into surrender. And so, the decision was made. The world's first nuclear attack would be carried out. On the morning of August 6, 1945, a B-29 bomber named Enola Gay took off from Tinian Island, carrying a bomb nicknamed Little Boy. Inside the aircraft, the crew knew their mission was unlike any other in history. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb was released over Hiroshima. What followed defies imagination. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a roaring wave of heat and pressure. Within seconds, tens of thousands of people were vaporized. Their shadows burned into walls. Wooden houses burst into flames. Concrete buildings collapsed as though made of paper. The bomb's blast destroyed everything within a 2-kilometer radius, and fires spread across the city, consuming all that was left. By the end of that single day, an estimated 70,000 to 80,000 people were dead. In the weeks and months that followed, radiation sickness claimed tens of thousands more. Survivors known as Hibakusha spoke of burns, blindness, and suffering so extreme it scarred generations. Can you imagine what it must have been like, standing in the streets of Hiroshima that morning, watching the sky turn into fire? Or waking up to find your city gone, your family lost, your world erased in a single instant? And yet, even after Hiroshima, Japan did not immediately surrender. 3 days later, on August 9, another bomb, this one called Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. Again, tens of thousands perished. Finally, on August 15, Emperor Hirohito addressed his nation, announcing Japan's surrender. World War I I had come to an end. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki achieved their intended purpose. They ended the deadliest war in history. But they also opened the door to a terrifying new reality, the nuclear age. Never before had humans possessed a weapon capable of erasing cities in seconds, of threatening the very existence of civilization. In the aftermath, the world was left with haunting questions. Was it justified? Could there have been another way? Historians and moral thinkers still debate this to this day. For the people of Hiroshima, however, the scars were not philosophical. They were real, physical, and lifelong. Survivors described skin hanging from their bodies, rivers filled with corpses, and the eerie silence of a city that once thrived. Some lived with cancers, deformities, and trauma for decades. Yet many of them also became voices for peace, traveling the world to warn against the horrors of nuclear war. From that day forward, humanity could no longer ignore the destructive power of science. Nations raced to build their own bombs, igniting the Cold War arms race. The Soviet Union, Britain, France, China all followed. Today, 9 countries possess nuclear weapons, and the threat of their use still hangs over us like a shadow. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki did more than end a war. They changed the way we see power, science, and even ourselves. They reminded us of both our brilliance and our brutality, the ability to unlock the atom, and the willingness to use it to annihilate. And as we reflect on that day, we are left with a question that still haunts the modern world. If humanity had the power to destroy itself in seconds, could it also find the wisdom to prevent it? Hiroshima was not just a city destroyed. It was a warning to all future generations, a reminder of what happens when human conflict collides with human invention. What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more.